Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? And oh my goodness, here we go. I'm bringing you another special guest today. Today I'm getting to talk to Shirley Krueger at Community Forever Village. She's also the president for North Texas SHRM. I've had you on my list to have you on the show for a long time, Shirley, and here you are. Hey, great to have you on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Bruce. Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me on your show. I'm very excited to be here.
This is going to be a lot of fun. Okay, I always like to reflect when I met my podcast guests or when they came into my path. Many of them I didn't know. I might have had them on the show because I read a book and was able to get them on the show or something. But for you, let's see if you remember this. North Texas SHRM in Denton, Texas. And I think we had been in a meeting that year, and I want to say it was around 2017, 2018, but we were walking out together, and I remember having a great conversation with you. And do you remember that?
I do, Bruce. Yes, maybe on luncheon.
Yeah, it was a luncheon. It
It
was a
was a
luncheon.
luncheon. My first real good memory of you is you helping me out with our annual conference and doing that broadcast for us or the video to promote our event.
I remember that. So is that the one we did at the Denton County Courthouse?
Yes,
And
out
I
in the
believe
100-degree
Dwayne
heat,
Clark was,
probably.
what's that?
In the 100-degree heat, probably.
I remember that. Carla was there. I think
Yeah,
Dwayne was there. You
yeah.
were there, and we were like so hot. We're sweating. We're like, man, we gotta get this in just a few takes here because
It's
that was
right.
so fun. That's a
Yeah,
great memory. Oh yeah, that's a
yeah.
lot of fun.
It was a
Yeah,
luncheon.
and we've got to know each other since we served together, of course, in Texas SHRM, and I've got to speak at your conference, and I'm just a big fan of North Texas SHRM, and so yeah, I'm so glad that we met back then. Hey, for those who don't know, Community Forever Village. Share a brief highlight of your organization and how you serve your customers.
Community Forever Village, though, yes. So it's a new nonprofit serving the chronically homeless in Denton County.
Mm.
And I heard about it from a friend of mine and got on the board and was serving on the board, trying to develop our policies, processes, procedures, getting our development in front of the city council for a zoning change. And then I wanted to, was looking for a new career and was reading your book, Bruce, and decided to take the pivot and move in as an employee for Community Forever Village to continue to try to develop that. So I actually lived down in Austin in the Community First Village down there that we're trying to replicate.
Mm.
Stayed there from September to December, lived in a tiny home and interned and volunteered and met a lot of the folks down there who are living in the village and just fell in love with it. It just was a very peaceful, very relational type of environment that you could just really dive into it. And I just really hope to bring that here in Denton.
I love that. When people say that they fell in love with it, I always want to ask, I want to dive into that question. And you mentioned just the environment, the relationship, but I think it's all about people. When you meet people that are really passionate, really love their organization, you just want to be around that. That's fantastic. Well, let's talk I want to hear the Shirley Krueger story. Like, where did you grow up? And for those who are listening, and how in the world did you get to where you are today?
Well, Bruce, I grew up in the North Texas area, a little bitty town of 500 people.
Hmm.
It's booming now. It's over 1,200. I don't know what's going on.
What town is that?
Lindsay, Texas.
Lindsay,
Yes.
up by
Yeah.
Gainesville, Texas.
Yes,
So we're
that is
talking
correct.
North Texas, people.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love it. Okay.
Yeah. So I am the middle child, oldest girl of 9 kids. So I have 6 brothers and 2 sisters.
Mm.
Had a very large extended family there. We had a large orchard, a large garden. We had to feed ourselves somehow. Then I was the first child to get married.
Mm.
So got married pretty young, or right after I got my associate's degree, and from what is now NCTC.
Hmm.
And then we started our family. So I now have 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy. and I have four grandsons, and we still live in the North Texas area.
Oh, that's
Never left.
fantastic. So we both know Kay Schroeder,
Yes.
part of,
Yeah.
yep, NCTC. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that. That's fantastic. Okay, so when you were going to school, I'm just curious, did you know what you wanted to do?
No, I
And
just
what
knew I wanted to go to school.
and what led you
I
to
wanted a college degree.
and what led you to a career in HR?
It was
Hmm.
very indirect route. So I don't know, lots of detours, bumpy roads, weedy paths, potholes along the way. But what led me to HR really was I took a job as a sales rep for a temporary agency. And so I got to go into businesses all over the city and all over North Texas, really, and got to see what businesses did, meet with the managers, and learn what they needed in an employee, what qualities they wanted
Hmm.
to be successful. And then on the reverse side, working with the temporaries that were looking for a permanent position or or even a temporary position, but seeing what they wanted to do and how they matched up with the roles and then tying those two together. And early on, I assigned a person to a position at a company here in Denton. And he came back to me 6 months later and said that I changed his life and the life of his family,
Mm.
that it made a huge difference to them. He loved the job, loved the company he was at, and that really got me hooked.
Mm.
I could really see the benefit of how human resources could impact people from the managers and how they treat their employees to the employees and how they work within the organization. So,
That is so good. You know, when I talk about find your lane, find your purpose, your calling, I'm thinking that this gentleman that told you he changed his life helped you find your lane. Like you're like, and maybe even not find your lane, validated the lane you were in.
yeah, because most of them don't come back and tell you that.
Exactly. And you got that feedback that like it was and I posted something this morning whenever I heard that the Life in the Leadership Lane podcast is now one of Texas's uh, best leadership podcasts. And to me, that was like fuel to keep going. And so
Oh,
with him
yeah.
telling you that, it's like he just filled up your tank and said, "Oh, okay, well, if I can do that, I'm going to go see how many other people I impact."
And still today, I still love that being able to help people. And I think the entry level
Mm,
or the one that's maybe not found their lane yet is the one that I'm really attracted to that
mm,
because if you can help them find their lane and find what they're passionate about, it can
mm.
change the trajectory of their life and maybe even for their family for decades to come.
And it changes your life too, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. To see somebody else be successful is just an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I love that. You know, it is true. It's not a myth. When you help people get what they need, you will get what you need.
Yeah.
And it comes in so many different ways. Hey, I'm curious. Like, okay, so you said, hey, I went to college. I wanted to graduate. I graduated. You got your associate's degree. And there's people, and then you, of course, have done very well throughout your career, but there's people, a common a trait around high performers. They have people in their lives that have helped them get where they are today. Were there any people you would call mentors or sponsors or someone that's helped you along the way? And if so, what were, I don't know, maybe share a few traits, what it was that they did that helped you so much.
I wouldn't say that I had like a formal mentor, but if you're curious and you ask questions and you're
Mm,
trying to learn, you're going to have mentors along the way. You're
mm,
going to find the people who can help you to grow and change and become a better person, a better leader, a better manager, whatever it is that you're searching for and what you're needing at that time. So, for example, Carla Flowers at North Texas
mm,
SHRM, she was president when I joined, and she asked me to be a volunteer. But she didn't just ask me to do something and then leave me to it. She walked alongside me. She advised me. She encouraged me. She said, "It's going to be okay, Shirley."
mm,
And so, somebody that asks you and challenges you and then walks alongside you,
mm,
that's a mentor, right?
mm-hmm.
I had a boss drove me crazy. But he also challenged me all the time to do my
Mm,
best work. So if we were negotiating a contract with a vendor, he would make me go back multiple times and say, is that the best you can do? Is that the best you can do? And it was amazing when your mindset gets you to where you want. So his mindset was, we need to be here.
mm,
And my mindset, oh, we can never get there. And he would keep pushing me and we'd get
mm,
there.
mm,
And he needed that for the business. And so it really taught me to really think about what do we really want to achieve and keep pushing until you get to that level or as close to it as you can.
mm,
But many times you can get a lot farther than you think you can.
mm. He challenged you. You know, I've had a lot of bosses that have challenged me, and sometimes at the time you're like, ah,
Yes.
it's like, can we just like do this? But then you look back and you're like, you know what, I'm better because of it. And of course, I got the chance to serve with Carla as well. She's phenomenal. Hey, I want to ask you, and I gave you a few questions before we started, and we'll talk about that. But you mentioned something that I think is important, and that is, and it's around you can find mentors and you can find people to help you on your journey when you are curious and when you're asking questions. A couple of questions. One is, have you always been curious? And number two, for those listening, how do you, I don't know, how do you develop curiosity, or is that just something that you just have?
Yes, I think I've always been curious.
Hmm.
I've always asked a lot of questions. It drives some people crazy. I'm like, but I want to know. I think most people are curious. They're just afraid to ask.
Hmm.
They don't want to look like they don't know what everybody else in the room knows.
Mm-hmm.
That just happened to me the other day. I was in a meeting and they were talking about something. I said, I'm sorry, I have no idea what that means. I said, I'm sure that all the rest of you know what that means. No. Several people said, oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. I didn't know what that meant either.
Would your 20-year-old self ask that question, or was it because you got so much experience now that you've asked that question?
Ooh, I don't know if my 20-year-old self would have asked that question.
That's a good, I like that. And
Yeah.
the reason why I mentioned that was because when I first joined the Armstrong Company, and I was in my mid 30s, and I remember sitting around the boardroom, and there were
Hmm.
10 business leaders there. Everybody was in sales, and they were all going around the table sharing their knowledge and expertise and perspective. And I remember thinking, I want to soak all this up. I'm just soaking this up. And then they came around to me and I didn't have anything to share. I didn't really say anything. And then fast forward 20 years later, we're sitting in the boardroom and we have all these young people in the room, and I'm the old guy or the veteran, and I want to know what they have to say. And so it made me think, you just, it doesn't matter where you're at in your career, you have something to share and people want to hear it. Would you agree with that?
Yes, yes. We all come from diverse backgrounds. We all have experiences that are different, and that all adds up to
Mhm.
a collective wisdom that we can use to make better decisions.
It's also, as I think through this, as we're talking, it's also a way to build brand, isn't it? Your brand. Because
Yes.
when you're someone that's curious, you're asking questions, it's going to catch people's attention saying, you know what? There's something about that person. I remember reading a story, and I shared this in Life in the Leadership Lane, the story about Mike Leach. And when he gave an opportunity to one of the football players, a quarterback, and the other coaches were telling the coach that, hey, what are you doing? He's really not that good. We just need to cut this guy. And he said, yeah, but he asked a lot of questions, and I'm thinking he might rub off on all the other quarterbacks. And he finally he told him, hey, you're not going to be able to play football, but I want you to be a part of my coaching staff. So he gave him a job as a coach. And so that helped his
Yeah.
brand. That's
Yeah.
that's important, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Building that culture really means listening to each other.
So okay, so I love all of that, and I think mentors are so important. Let's talk leadership here. I always like to ask my guests. Leadership has so many different definitions. There's so many different ways to define it. If someone said, "Hey, Shirley, what's leadership to you?" How would you respond to that?
I just really feel like leadership is helping other people achieve their potential.
Mm,
In order to do that, though, you can't just tell them what you think they should be doing. You have to first build a relationship with them.
mm,
You have to know what their definition of success is, because it's probably not the same as my definition of success. And
mm.
so before I can lead them, I have to know who they are. I have to know what is important to them. And then I can help them discover on their own what drives them, what is meaningful to them so that they can have the success that they want in their lives.
I'm reading a book I'm about to finish up called Leveling Up, and it talks about dream catchers.
Oh, yeah.
And when you said that, it made me think, oh, that's what you're talking about. You got to go find out. You mentioned, hey, you got to find out what success is to someone else and help them get there. And that's
Yeah.
real leadership. And the dream catcher was around, hey, do you know what other people's dreams are around you? Have you asked them, hey, what's your dream? And trying to help them get to where they are. And
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about. That's real leadership. I love that. I love that. Okay, so I've watched you from many years now. We've known each other, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years now.
Yeah.
Watched you for a long time. Your growth has just skyrocketed. You currently are the president of North Texas SHRM. You are doing amazing things, but I've watched you lead others. Talk about your growth. What has been, I don't know, maybe just for those listening and they're like, you know what, I want to I'm trying to grow in my career.
Mhm.
I don't know, what are some things that you would attribute some of your growth to?
Number one, I think you have to want to continue to grow and learn.
Mm,
Because
desire.
without that and without the curiosity that I have, you're
Mm,
going to be in the same spot. The other thing is you have to get uncomfortable and
mm,
stretch. You have to take on roles and assignments that you
mm,
think you're not prepared for,
mm,
and you may fail.
mm,
I've fallen a lot, but I keep falling forward.
mm,
I keep trying because you learn a lot from your mistakes. I'd
mm.
rather learn it from reading a book or listening to a podcast, but short of that, you have to stretch and you're going to fail. And you have
Hmm.
to get comfortable with failure as well. There has been many times when I look back on parts of my life and I'm like, boy, I wish I would have done that better.
Mm.
And now with a little bit more experience, or even just reflecting on it in the moment, you can see, oh, yeah, I probably didn't do that very well.
Yeah.
And next time I'll do better, or maybe I can go study up on how to do better in that area. But just staying stagnant and um, playing it safe
Hmm.
will not get you to a leadership role.
Yeah. I think about someone having great humility. And I have a love-hate relationship with failure. I hate failing.
Me too.
I hate it, but I love it because I know that failure is leading me to growth. Hey, well, I do want to talk to you about one thing. You've changed lanes. You've been an HR leader, a business leader, serving HR for many years. What's that? I don't know. When you change lanes, I don't know. What was that like? And because there's some people listening right now going, you know what? I might need to change lanes. And maybe not even from their job, maybe it's changing their perspective or their viewpoints, or maybe
Hmm.
changing from operation to sales, or just maybe within their organization.
Hmm.
When you think about changing lanes, I don't know, maybe share just some perspective around that. What was that like for you? And now that you can look back and see like that journey that you've been on, I don't know, what are you proud of?
Well, you're right about your perspective can change. You can change your lane by changing your perspective. I've done
Mm,
that before.
yeah,
I wasn't ready or in a position to change jobs
yeah.
because of children and other circumstances. So if you're not liking your job, well, what can you change in your perspective
Mm,
to to like aspects of the job
mm-hmm,
that will keep you there? Because if you're going into work and you're hating every day of it, but you feel stuck there, then change your perspective while you look for a new job.
mm-hmm.
Enjoy the moment while you're there. If you have to be there, you might as well enjoy it. Life is too short to go to work every day and hating your day every day.
Mm,
So in this situation, I was actually reading your book, Drive with Purpose,
mm,
and the subtitle, Move Your Career from Success to Significance,
mm-hmm,
really struck me at that
mm,
moment. And it still does. You said in there, or you quoted somebody in here, everything you do today builds your tomorrow.
mm.
I just love that. That was from Elizabeth
Elizabeth.
McCormick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the pilot
And
speaker.
yes, yeah. And
Fantastic.
then you also wrote, setbacks in our careers are inevitable, but having goals in diverse areas helps us look forward and stay optimistic.
That's right.
So I realized a couple of things. I'd really be part at the ground level of building a significant community
Mm,
for the chronically homeless who are typically forgotten, unwanted, unloved, but they are still people who deserve our love and
mm,
they need a home just like everybody else. And so just thinking about that opportunity of significance and making a difference to so many people that are less fortunate than many others drove me to make the decision to change lanes.
mm.
But at the same time, all of my HR experience has played into what I do, building relationships, understanding policies and procedures, asking a lot of questions,
Mm-hmm.
helping others to move in to their own roles in helping us build this village.
I love that. I love all of this. And I was thinking about when you mentioned that, and we talked about you can also change your perspective because maybe you don't need to change jobs. Maybe you just need to change perspective. It made me think I was watching this interview and I forgot the guy that was talking. He was in the movie Top Gun and he didn't get the role he wanted for Top Gun, but he was telling Tom Cruise, they were talking, he was asking Tom Cruise, how, he said, what do you want? And he said, I want to be like you. And he said, what do you think I've done to get there? And he said, well, you just pick great movies or you pick great roles, I think is what he said in great movies. And he said, no, he said, what I do is I just pick a movie and I make the role great. And that's what you've done. You said, hey, you know what? I want to be part of this organization and I want to be significant. I want to create significance in this role so our organization be significance. And so really it's up to you. And you mentioned earlier, I heard the word desire earlier. You have to
Mhm.
want to do that. And then
Yes.
once you decide to do that, then you can, it doesn't matter where you are. You've heard the stories about the world's greatest street sweeper and
Yeah,
right. And
right.
so it doesn't matter what role you're in, you can create significance in any role. And thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. I'm part of the National Speakers Association group of North Texas with Elizabeth McCormick. She's a past president of the organization, and when she said that quote, I was just like, oh yes, I want to build a better tomorrow,
Yeah.
like in everything that I do.
Right. And Bruce, every role is significant. A
Mm.
company cannot operate without every person there. And so it doesn't matter what your role is, you are significant.
Okay,
And
I want to ask you now, being on this topic here, how do you inspire or communicate that to other people in your organization so they know? Because I think a lot of times people just think, well, I'm just, or I'm only the receptionist or the
right.
accountant. I'm just HR. How do you just like what you just said, how do you create that mindset of no, you're significant, you're doing great things?
In a business setting, it's really showing the bigger picture to the person and how they fit into that bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they think they're just outside doing
Mm-hmm.
this one role and it doesn't impact anything else, then they won't see that
Mm.
and they won't feel that significance. But if they feel like they're part of the mechanism that keeps the engine running and how they fit into that, they'll you can show the significance there. And even just coming into work, you're the receptionist. You brought that up. You're the receptionist. You come into work and you're grumpy. Do you think you affect other people?
Mm.
Do you think if you come in with a smile on your face and you're welcoming people into the building, do you think you have an impact on other people?
Oh, that is so good. You know, it also reminds me of, I think it was in the book, we're both have participated in some of the climb
Hmm.
books, the book club, the leadership community that we're in. And I think it was in The Power of Moments, but it talked about John Kennedy when he visited NASA and he asked the janitor what he
Right.
was doing. And he said, I'm
Yes,
putting
yes,
people on the moon.
yes, yes. And you've heard the bricklayer,
Yes.
I lay bricks, I'm building a wall, I'm building a cathedral.
Yes, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Oh my goodness, that's so good. Hey, well, I did put I did write this down. You shared a post on LinkedIn about how we need to be available, yet we're human, but we need
Hmm.
to charge up. I'm curious, like, how do you charge up? Because I feel like most of the people I interview on the show, they're very ambitious. They're drivers. They're trying to make a difference in the world. But yet you talk about the importance of, hey, listen, yeah, we all want to make a difference, but we've also got to charge up too. I
Hmm.
don't know. How do you charge up?
I've always made it a point to be present in the moment.
Mm,
Sometimes it's really hard, but especially when my kids were little, it was as much energy as I gave into work, I better give that much, if not more,
mm,
at home.
mm,
And so being, it almost feels like you're constantly on, but what you're doing, if it's charging you up anyway, that's great. So I get charged up at work because I like what I'm doing.
mm,
I get charged up at home because I like being around my kids. But to really disconnect from everything, I'd like to get together with my siblings and go golfing.
mm.
We're terrible at it. At least I am. I don't know. Maybe they're not so terrible, but we uh we just have a really good time. So we went golfing last Sunday and we laughed so hard because
Oh, that's so
it was
good.
just fun. We laugh at our bad shots and we cheer for our good ones. It's all good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but outside, I love walking my dog.
Yeah,
I've got an Irish
that's awesome.
doodle. He's so cute and I
Mm.
love to take him for walks and just relax with him and just be in nature.
You're also you're a volunteer leader for North Texas SHRM. You are a former president and you are a current president. You like being president so much, you came back for another round. For those who are listening though, and they want to, I don't know, they want to get involved in volunteering, but it takes time.
Hmm.
I don't know, share maybe some of the things that volunteering has done for you in your career and what people need to consider being part of it.
I'll just talk about volunteering at North Texas SHRM. I volunteered in a lot of other roles,
Hmm.
but I started out as a brand ambassador, just be an ambassador for North Texas SHRM
Yeah.
and talking to people and welcoming them into sessions. And then I planned the annual conference that you helped me out with. Thank
Hmm.
you again.
You're welcome.
And through all of those volunteer opportunities, I learned new skills. I learned how to, work with other volunteers. I learned
Hmm.
how to ask for donations. I learned how to speak in front of people. I learned how to put a 2-day conference together. So when you volunteer, it's a safe space to try new things.
Hmm.
At work, if you want to stretch, it may be a little bit harder because there could be some consequences if you don't do a really good job. But through volunteering, if you're trying and you're trying your best, you're going to be surrounded by other volunteers who want you to succeed because it helps the organization. And then it helps you in a safe space to learn that new skill. So just think about public speaking. So with the annual conference, I had to speak in front of a group of 100 people
Hmm.
and introduce the conference and the speakers and that kind of thing. So then when you go back to the boardroom or in a meeting and you're only talking to 3 or 4 people, that's a whole lot easier, right?
Hmm. That's a great point. I love
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
wrote down a safe space to try new things. I love the
Yeah.
way you put that because it really gives you a chance to elevate your leadership skills and continue to
Mhm.
work on them, improve them. Also, to just get to know people outside the
Right.
organization, right? And just
Right.
validate, hey, oh, you're having the same challenges I am. Whew,
Right. In an HR world, it's, I think being a part of your local SHRM chapter is really
Mm,
important because you do have that group of individuals that you can talk with openly about your challenges. A lot of times in the business, they don't, you can't talk about a lot of things for various reasons, but
mm.
in your group of HR friends, you can kind of let loose a little bit and tell them about your challenges and telling them what you're suffering with. And then you realize that they have those same challenges or they've been through it in the past and they can help you. They have ideas for you.
I'll put a link in the show notes to for North Texas SHRM so people can go and learn more about the organization. I do want to ask you, do you remember the first time you went to a meeting? Because a lot of people that are listening, they may not even have been to a SHRM meeting before. What made you want to go? Can you remember that? Like
Mhm.
what motivated you to actually go to a meeting? Because I feel like everybody needs a why, whether they're going to a SHRM meeting or a chamber meeting or just associate the church, whatever that is, there's a why behind that. Do you remember why you went?
Well, for me, I've pretty much most of my career been an HR department of one.
Okay.
So I didn't have any resources to within the company
Hmm.
to reach out to. And I got my first HR certification in 2008.
Hmm.
And it was after that that I actually joined Dallas HR
Okay.
and went to many of their luncheons there for about 3 years, maybe.
Hmm.
And Dallas HR was a lot more challenging, just like you've described your experience there in trying
Yeah.
to connect. You did a lot better job with it than I did, I'll tell you that. I was a little daunted by the number of people there. So North
Yeah.
Texas SHRM, when I joined that in 2017, I felt very much at home.
Yeah.
I fit in and could volunteer and really get to know their other members.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think that you have to, just like you were trying to find your lane in your career, you got to find your lane on the groups that you network with as well. And so some
Yes.
people do well in certain groups. Some people want a big city, some people want a small town.
Yeah.
And, I remember back in when you're talking about, there were 250, 300 people at those luncheons.
Yes.
And it looked like everybody knew everybody.
Yes, it
Like,
did.
and you're like the odd man out or odd woman out or odd person out.
Yeah.
And you're right. And then some of the other chapters, there's 31 chapters in the great state of Texas, and they're all have different shapes and sizes and different, and that's what I love, the diversity of the different
Yeah.
groups, and it gives people a chance to find what group works for them.
And at North Texas SHRM, we have been very intentional for about a year or two on trying to build the relationships amongst our members. So we
Mm-hmm.
have table topics to kind of get conversations flowing.
Mm-hmm.
We make sure there's a board member sitting at every table to connect them and, welcoming new visitors to the luncheons. And then this year, we started a celebrations theme where we're recognizing people's birthdays and
Exciting.
accomplishments, whether it's getting certified or a new job or a promotion. We're just really trying to focus on those relationships. And because we are a little bit smaller, we can do that. And it's been a joy for us to do it for our members.
It's fantastic. Nothing better than recognition. Hey, I got one last question before I want to wrap up and go to it's time to accelerate. And that is, have you ever been given any advice like you just find yourself sharing often?
Be a continuous learner, be
Mm,
curious, keep
yeah.
growing. Once you stop, it doesn't matter if you're 20, if you're 80, just keep growing, keep learning. Life is wonderful and it's short.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Okay. Hey, I want to go to it's time to accelerate. Favorite book or podcast that you enjoy just for entertainment or for growth?
The most impactful book I read probably was many years ago, and that was Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Gene Greaves. Growing up in the town I grew up in, nobody talked about their emotions.
Yeah.
And so just learning how your emotions and how you can decide how you're going to handle a situation versus
Mhm.
reacting out of emotion was really kind of an eye opener. I think everybody needs to learn that. So that was one of probably the most impactful book I've read.
Love it. I love it.
So recently listening to an audio book on by Mel Robbins,
Hmm.
Let Them
Hmm.
was really good.
Very popular.
And of course, I read all of your books. They've always been very, very, very impactful as well. And
Thank you.
podcasts, I don't listen to as many. I work out of my home now.
Mm.
So I'm not in my car as much and don't have as much time to listen to podcasts, but you're always on the list, Bruce.
Oh, thank you, Shirley. I appreciate that. Okay, so before I ask my final question, I do want to ask you what you're most proud of.
Besides my ch children, probably going back to school and getting my
Mm,
bachelor's degree in 2016.
that's fantastic.
And then subsequent to that, passing on my first try, the SHRM SCP.
That, by the way, folks, that is a very extremely difficult test.
It was very hard. I
So,
studied, I don't know how many hours
that's
every week
great.
to
I
pass
love
that test.
that.
I was not going to take it again.
I would probably put going back. So I went to school for a year and a semester. So I guess a year and a half. And then I quit for 4 years and I went back and I would put getting my degree like up there at the top
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
And just because it's something like it's very like it takes a lot, to do the work.
Right.
And
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 raising
then
a family and having a
yeah,
full-time job
yeah,
while you're going to school. I
yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah.
easier now with virtual classes, but it's still, and it took a lot of studying.
Yeah, I walked across the stage and my three kids were in the audience. Can you believe
Yeah.
that? I love that. Okay, final question. Shirley, 10 years older, is around the corner knocking at your door, and you are going to answer that door. What's she going to tell you?
You did okay.
Hmm.
You kept trying, you kept stretching, you took those stretch assignments, you failed along the way, but you
Hmm.
never stopped.
I love that. That's a wise 10 years older Shirley Krueger. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your perspective. I know I've got a full page of notes here. I
Oh
know other
gosh.
people are like taking notes, and you've given a lot of great information today. But for someone that heard you today and they're like, hey, I want to learn more about North Texas SHRM, or I just want to connect with Shirley, how's the
Yeah.
best way for them to connect?
North Texas SHRM is ntxshrm.org
Hmm.
and come and join us, be a member. It's $10 a month, so it's a good deal. Or you can connect with me directly on LinkedIn.
Mm. And I'll put all the links in the show notes so people can find you and click that link and connect with you. And when you connect with Shirley, be sure and let her know you heard her on Life in the Leadership Lane and maybe share something that she said that impacted you. And I know that it will be an instant connection. So again, Shirley, I'm grateful to know you and serve with you, and I'm excited about all the things ahead. So thanks again for coming on the show today.
Absolutely, Bruce. You inspire me every day. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, I can't wait to air our conversation. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.